Say one thing for Logan Nine Fingers, say he's in a f***ing great book. Honestly, Abercrombie is quickly becoming one of my favourite authors, and I'm probably going to eat up everything he's written at some point this year. I'm probably going to completely finish every single thing that Joe Abercrombie has written before 2022. So without further ado, let's get into why. So I'm going to structure this spoiler-free review with positives and negatives. The negatives are going to be very short and almost non-existent. But when I review, I like to try and find some sort of criticisms, even if they're nitpicks, because I don't like to just be a billboard. I don't like to just be an advertisement. Like, the point is discussion. So I try to find any kind of criticism that I can. But I really struggled. I really struggled to find anything negative about this book. This book does not suffer from sequel syndrome at all. The plot was better. We got so much more character. This book, everything that I thought was great about The Blade itself, this book exceeded. This was better. The plot was better. There was more things going on, even though it was still so character driven. And it is. Joe Abercrombie is a craftsman of character, and he uses his characters to their best ability and allows us to really be in these characters' minds and really feel for them and root for them. Even if they're not even likeable or good people, we just find ourselves, or at least I found myself, really just loving them anyway. And I mean, controversial opinion, I kind of don't agree that they're bad people.
What?
No, honestly, I think Glockter's a good bloke. Oh my god. That's a whole conversation in and of itself and probably deserves its own video. Maybe I'll do a video called Why the First Law Characters Are Good People. And I think it's because the conversation is about who someone is and who they are in their heart and how much they are a product of their own society. I wouldn't look at a 90-year-old and they have views and outlooks that don't necessarily mesh with today and just completely think they're evil and bad. That's a thing that changes with time. Are the characters in this book bad people doing bad things? Sort of. Are they a product of their societies? Very much so. Is the society bad? Definitely. I actually think Glockter, in his heart, is a good person. A really good, sadistic person that tortures people. It's possible. But that controversial take aside, the character interactions in this book exceeded The Blade itself. Vero got tons of more time and tons of more development given to her, and that's good because I found her to be a bit annoying in the first book because she didn't really do much, and when she did, it was just to moan and be viscous and abrasive. But in this book, we really got to see under that facade. Three Trees and the Named Men got so much more time in this book. Time to shine, in my opinion. They were some of the best parts of this book. Those sections were awesome, and I love those characters more and more. So many of the side characters got so much more time and so much more development in this book. This book is longer, so Joe Abercrombie was able to take the time to develop and work on things that didn't get as much of a look, didn't get as much of the spotlight in the first one. Sorry if the lighting just changed, the LED battery just ran out. But yeah, that gets me to my next point. Every POV was enjoyable. And even Sanderson doesn't do this to me. Like, being able to write a book where at one point I'm going to be wanting to be in the point of view of my favourite characters. Because they're all great for their own reasons. No character is the same. And so it created this unique experience for me as a reader where I was never bored. I never felt like any particular chapter was a slog. And that's staggering because a lot of the time in Stormlight, for example, I often want to get to Dalinar's point of view, or I often want to get to Kaladin's point of view. And sometimes I could be reading a point of view and part of my brain is going, yeah, I know, but I want to get back to the characters that I like the most, or I want to get back to the part of the story that I like the most. And even though there were more point of views in this than in the first one, and even though there were different storylines in different locations, I was always happy, more than happy, to be in the one I was in at the moment. I was never wishing to get back to a certain point of view. I was always content with where I was in this story. It always had me engaged. And therefore, the book must be perfectly paced and perfectly structured, at least for me. Otherwise, there would be moments that are not as engaging as others. Or maybe it doesn't matter how it's structured and paced because the characterization is so good. I like Joe Abercrombie's modern take on classic tropes and how he does things that feel familiar and yet the whole experience also feels fresh to me. His prose, oh my god, as a writer, I am so inspired. His prose is masterful. How did I not realise this before? The reason I DNF'd The Blade itself the first time was because I did not like his prose. I thought it read amateur, I thought it read clunky, I thought it was not pretty enough. Oh man, I was such an idiot. It's incredible. There's just the way he describes things. Far below, the dark water moved, foaming and churning, washing at the tortured ground beneath the foundations of the city. And out of this subterranean sea stuck broken walls and shattered towers and the cracked open shells of monstrous buildings. At the top of one tottering column, a statue still stood, some hero long dead. His hand must once have been raised in triumph. Now, it stuck up in desperation, as if he was pleading for someone to drag him from his watery hell. It's masterful. The way he sets tone, the way he creates atmosphere, the way he describes a setting, the visceral nouns, the visceral descriptors, the visceral language, every hard-hitting word. One of the descriptions he had for something being slippery, so an inanimate object, he described the stone, he described wet stone as being slippery as liars. What a great simile. That's slippery as liars, because it doesn't just describe, it doesn't even describe what you're looking at, but it adds to the tone of the book, because the tone of the book and the tone of the story and the tone of this world have this very negative, bleak view, and a lot of the characters have this negative, bleak view. So by describing the wet wall as being slippery as liars, there's so much like that in this book. The prose is masterful and I love it. But it's not lyrical, it's just so intentional. In fact, this book is so good in so many ways that I can't even pinpoint. And that's frustrating me as a writer and someone that studies writing. Why can't I work out everything that makes this good? I want to know all the pieces of this jigsaw puzzle of narrative craft. I want to know exactly how he does all this, because some of it feels like it shouldn't work, but it just does. Like, we shouldn't like these people. We shouldn't be enjoying this slow plot with these kind of unlikable people. And I can't pinpoint exactly what moments make us like these people and make us be engaged in this story. But we just do! We just love it. I just love it. What are they doing up there? Are they doing disco? Ah, you do the disco. Shut up! I love the douchey, ignorant, tough officer trope. Sharp does this quite a lot. Bernard Cornwell's Sharp series does this. I like that trope of you have the upper class officers that just get given the positions in military and they have no idea what they're talking about. I always love that trope. And that's used and handled amazingly in this book. People talk about the First Law as being really dark and really nihilistic. I really disagree. Everyone's been going on about how dark the First Law is. It's not even that dark. Like, okay, there's a bit of death. There's a bit of gruesome detail. I don't think it's that dark. And I really don't think it's nihilistic. I don't think its view on the world it's really bad, because I mean, we're finding glimmers of hopefulness within these bad characters doing bad things. Like I said, there's a lot of hopefulness in Glocta's character, at least where I stand now in this trilogy. And he does some very awful things. So I don't think the First Law is that dark or that nihilistic. So people that are supposed to be put off by it, yeah, okay, there's some bad language. So yeah, okay, if you're not into curse words and some gruesome fighting, like that, at one point some guy's nose gets bitten off. If you're not into that, then I understand, but it's not that dark. It's not. Maybe I'm just desensitized. Also, the action in this doesn't go on for too long. It never overstays its welcome. It always flows really well, and I'm always engaged in it. I'm never bored in this book. The sex scene that that was in this book, it only cringed me out a little bit. Only a little bit. Those are all the positives I have of this book. Now let's get on to my criticisms. The sex scene cringed me out a little bit. I'm a bit of a prude. I don't actually like sex scenes. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to have sex with people. Oh. At my university, we do a workshop, and the course is overwhelmingly female writers. And my one of my tutors is a female writer who does poetry, and what like her sort of thing is detailed like sexual writing, and they do write very detailed sexual writing, and it does make me kind of uncomfortable. That's a personal preference though. I don't think that's a con really at all, because some people don't care about that. I don't know, because I think I've got a very vivid imagination, because I love vivid descriptions in my prose, because it really resonates and really realises and comes to life as colours and smells and sounds. I really overly visualise the stories that I read. So if someone starts writing about scabs and sticky man bits, I see scabs and sticky man bits. But my only real negatives are that the characters don't have a lot of agency. It's more they're being dragged through the story by other people. And Baez he's just a first law wiki. He's just a law wiki. He's just there to throw in loads of exposition about the history of things. Although I have that criticism now, I have a feeling that that's intentional and it's going to be very subverted in the next book. So I don't think that's a real criticism, because I think the exposition that he keeps providing is deliberate, because my prediction is that a lot of what he's been saying is complete BS. But as it stands at the moment, it just seems like Baez is constantly info dumping. But once again, because you love all these characters and everything feels so woven in and intentional, it doesn't bother me at all. My biggest criticism of this trilogy so far is that the books don't necessarily stand on their own. This one definitely doesn't. It requires the legwork done by the Blade itself. And obviously when you've got a continuous story, that's fine. My books will be the same. But each book doesn't necessarily have its own... I suppose it does actually. His plots are just so... that his plots aren't very solid. His plots are very foggy. So even though there is kind of a semblance of a narrative purpose underlying it, his focus is 100% character. And so the movement of book-specific plot is very much at the bottom of the priorities. At least that's what it seems like with regards to Joe Abercrombie's intentions. Even my criticisms have caveats. Like, I don't really have any proper criticisms of this book. I loved it. I just loved it. 9 out of 10. Straight up. You have to be realistic about these things. Yeah, I really love this book, and I can't wait to pick up more from Joe Abercrombie, and I can't wait to read the next one. Thank you for watching this review. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, because that gets me up in the algorithm. Please leave comments and engage. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I've uploaded. Follow me on Instagram, because I post stories most days. Join the Discord, because we have great community engagement in the Discord, and sometimes I do little secret live streams just for the people in Discord. So if you don't want to miss out on that, get on in the Discord. And yeah, read the first law ASAP. Peace.